Let's talk about my cherry tree for a change. This was chewed up by a deer early in the spring, and it ate a bunch of the fruit off the tree. So this tree has four different grafts on it. I bought it this way. That's a Rainer, which is, I believe, a yellow cherry. This is Stella. This is a self-fertile variety. It doesn't need another cherry to pollinate it. Not that it's a problem here because there's four varieties, and I was training the branch to grow more out since it was growing into the tree. So that pole's there. But yeah, these are just about ready. I've been sampling them, and I do like a little bit of acid in my fruit. I don't like overly sweet fruit, so I'm just going to pick what I'm going to eat now. This graft is Royal Anne, which is also a yellowish cherry. They don't turn red, and the inside isn't red. Yeah, so these Stellas look pretty good. I'm not sure if it's coming up on camera, but I think I picked these around the same time last year. And I do bag them. It's very tedious, believe me, but if you want to save these from birds and insects, I recommend bagging them. Look how shiny this is. And I don't see any bug holes, so if there's a worm in here, I feel sorry for the worm. Yeah, so if there's a curculio in here, usually the seed will be damaged and there'll be like a brown spot, but if the phone would focus, I can show you how juicy this is. Really good flavor on this. And like I said, I picked these based on flavor. They might exactly be at peak, but they're good enough for me. If you only have room for one tree, get a Stella. Or a multigrafted tree. This tag, I lost it. I believe it's either a Montmorency, if I'm saying that correctly, or a Black Tartarian. These, if they're Montmorency, they're supposed to be sour, but I don't taste much sour in these. If they are the Black Tartarian, if I'm saying that correctly, these should turn close to black. So we're going to leave these on the tree a little longer. So what do I do for these cherries? Do I spray? I do spray copper in very late winter for the fungus. Since my phone doesn't want to focus here, I'm just going to talk about the spraying. I use pyrethrin on all of my stone fruit. I only spray after the petals have dried up. And what's called husk split is when the papery husk around the developing fruit falls off. Then it's usually safe so you don't harm pollinators. And I'll spray until June, but I don't always spray the cherries. I just spray when there's leftovers. I do, however, spray the trunks because we do get peach borer. And yeah, pyrethrins or pyrethroids, however you pronounce, is really toxic to cats and dogs as well as fish. So just be careful around pets, sources of water. This is how I harvest the cherries. I just cut the stem here, which saves the bud there from getting damaged, which I believe is future leaves or flowers. And also your fruit will last longer if the stem is on it. If you don't want to spray anything, or if you want to spray something less harsh, you can use kaolin clay, or just keep up with the bags immediately as the fruit sets. A downside to that is that the fruit is small and any gust of wind will tear it off with the bag. You definitely need to do something for the insects and the birds though on your cherries because they will get taken. The plum curculio doesn't really bother my sweet or sour cherries as much because I do have a plum tree and that's their preferred food source. But yeah, in terms of controlling them, do what works for you. I mean, I'm not here to lecture you on using organics or inorganics, synthetics. I believe what I'm spraying here is less harmful than what you'd get at a grocery store. I mean, cherries are part of the dirty dozen. So with that, let's go to the citrus trees. Multi-grafted Thai try here with Prague blooming in the foreground. Right next to it is this Swingle Citramello with three grafts of Iva Citramello, which is an off-type Swingle seedling, I believe, with sweeter fruit. The Swingle here grows more shrub-like. It has the lower branches there covering the trunk, which I'm going to show you now as I pull this oak seedling away. So yeah, I can barely get my hand around this trunk. And I believe this tree is planted here in 2020. I'll have to check my notes. Maybe 2019. But yeah. Pretty much no trunk damage any of the winters that we've had. I don't cover these. The Tai Tri I left as a multi-stemmed shrub, I guess you want to call it. This side had the Ichang Papeda, which died back this winter, unfortunately, and hasn't resprouted, and probably won't because the graft is dead. But now the tree is shooting these suckers out, kind of like the citramellos over here. And I think I'm going to let these grow so that it'll cover the trunk and possibly provide more winter protection by insulating from wind and sun. And these are spotted lanternfly nymphs. So if you're on the East Coast, you're probably dealing with these right about now. I did spray those pyrethrins on them, and I did knock them off my my grapes. Otherwise, the grapes will get sooty mold all over them. And here's that bishop that I pollinated with the Thomasville, which is not showing a very healthy color, and this is probably going to drop. Unfortunately, I guess even though we hand pollinated it, it didn't set a fruit. Though it did grow a little bit, so I don't know. This is the first year that it really did flower for us, so we'll give it that excuse. But back here is another prog fruitlet that I did hand pollinate with, I believe, Meyer lemon. I marked the leaf on there, so let me just see what I put on here. That looks like an M. Yeah, that's Meyer lemon. Not that I expect any sort of hybrid or anything that will survive it here. I'm just using the pollen to help the fruit set. This one back here I mentioned in a previous video or maybe a blog post. I didn't pollinate it, and look at it's turning yellow, so that's gonna fall off. And over here I did some Meyer as well as Thomasville, whatever was blooming at the time, and these are putting some size on them. I mean, aside from hand pollinating, I don't know if there's any sprays I can put on here, any type of hormones that is available to consumer, home grower. But I did apply a bloom booster. I forget the NPK on there, but it's supposed to help these trees set. It's a foliar feed. So you can see the camera's cooperating. You can see the pollen grains on the sticky pistil. So in theory, these will germinate, and these long tubes will form and get down to the ovary, I guess, and that's when the seed formation happens, which will hopefully help us set some fruit. Do you guys know if ants steal pollen? Whenever you see ants on your plants, they're usually up to no good. They're either farming aphids or drinking sap from scale. Even though this isn't the climate for it, we still get all sorts of citrus-loving insects. Is this a thrip? Kind of looks like it's twerking. Let me know what this is in the comments. At this point, I'm just pollinating anything and just marking it. It doesn't really matter what the pollen is. Like I said, I don't expect any hybrids to survive here. I don't think a Meyer times Satsuma would be hardy here. Well, I know it won't be. And times Thomasville, it also won't be hardy here. We're interested in Zone 7A hardy citrus, which are anything more edible than Poncirus. Speaking of, the fast-flowering trifoliate looks like it's going to make a second wave of flowers. It does do this, and the second wave can set fruit. They'll just be smaller at the end of the season than had they formed in the early spring. I don't really see a pistil, maybe deeper inside the flower there. But if this pollen is viable, sometimes the pollen just doesn't shed for whatever reason. It might help the prog around here. Aside from these ants that are probably stealing the pollen, I haven't seen bees on here pollinating the citrus. Maybe they're just not accustomed to the flowers yet. I did notice on my pomegranate, a few years I didn't have any pollinators, and then all of a sudden some bees found it. I think they were bumblebees. And let's get a close-up of the fast-flowering trifoliate. Sometimes the flowers are kind of malformed, but these are okay, aside from the one I showed you a little bit earlier. I do see a pistil here. Don't see any pollen grains releasing yet. If it does, I'll use this pollen on the remaining prog flowers. I'll give it a try tomorrow. And now we're inside the greenhouse with some updates. Some kind of nutrient deficiency. If anybody has any ideas. I did spray Southern AG citrus formula, but I believe that's only going to show up in the new growth. These marumi flowers, I've been pollinating with the remnants of my dried Poncirus Plus pollen, so hopefully it's still viable. If not, these are probably going to fall off, and then I'll get no marumi. And Thomasville is starting to do, I guess, June drop. This could be a rootstock issue. Some rootstocks hold fruit more readily than others because these are all pollinated. And the rootstock this Thomasville is on is Poncirus, pure Poncirus. But some other ones here have a nicer size, and hopefully those won't fall off. You can tell which ones are about to fall off just based on the color. And a slight touch just knocks them off. Like that. Oh. So, yeah. My grafted Thomasville, which is on a sour orange in a tiny pot, actually held 2 or 3 fruit. So I don't know what the deal is with this bush, other than the rootstock maybe just doesn't want to hold as many fruit. So yeah, rootstock does also influence how much fruit your grafts will set, regardless of pollination. These are okay. But hopefully we get to try some marumi at the end of the season. I believe there's more marumi over here. This is a Fukushu, the one I hit with Poncirus Plus pollen. Yes, it dropped, unfortunately. But there's another one here, and I repeated the pollen, but I also left the anthers there. And I just discovered this cinnamon flower up here. And the pistil was sticky, so I did pollinate it with some of that dried Poncirus Plus pollen, but like I said, I'm not too confident that the pollen is viable, so I'm going to come back here and probably pollinate it with something else. Most likely Meyer. I think that's releasing pollen at the moment. Or maybe one of those fast-flowering trifoliate flowers. More of that deficiency showing up here. I did spray the Southern AG on this. I'm hoping this will correct itself, but if it doesn't show up on the older leaves, it will in the newer leaves. My Ichang Pipeda is now on the indoor Titri, and I have to cut that branch off on the right. So let's move on to the outside. Again, here we are with our fast-flowering trifoliate on its own roots. And I just wanted to see if this is flowering again, but these are some of the fruits that set in the early spring. So yeah, as you can see, the flowers are kind of malformed, and I don't see a pistil. But like I said, these are still useful. If the pollen will release on these, we can always borrow it for something. Ideally, I wanted Poncirus Plus pollen this season to try some experimenting. Some lanternfly on there. But as with plants, you have to be patient. I always say next year will be the year, right? 10 years later? Nah, it hasn't been that long. It's only been like 5 or 6 years since I've started collecting these. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next update. Whatever that may be. See ya.